Introduction to the language of the universe. Look closely at the world around you. Notice the veins branching through a leaf. Watch the way a pine cone arranges its scales. Observe the curve of a seashell, the swirl of a hurricane on a weather map, or the sweeping arms of a distant galaxy at first glance. These things may seem completely unrelated. A leaf belongs to a tree. A shell belongs to the ocean. A galaxy exists far beyond our planet. Yet when scientists began studying these forms carefully, they discovered something remarkable. Many of them follow the same mathematical patterns. Patterns are not accidents. They are the way nature organizes growth. For centuries, scientists, artists, and mathematicians have searched for order in the world. They measured, compared, sketched, and calculated. They asked questions such as, why do flower petals often appear in certain numbers? Why do seeds in a sunflower form spirals? Why do some shapes feel balanced and pleasing to the eye? Again and again, their investigations led to two powerful ideas: the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio. The Fibonacci sequence is a pattern of numbers that grows in a very specific way. Each number is formed by adding the two numbers that come before it. Although the rule is simple, the results are extraordinary. This sequence appears in the arrangement of leaves on a stem, and the spirals of pine cones, and even in the growth patterns of certain animal populations. What begins as a small mathematical rule expands into a model for how living systems grow over time. Closely connected to this sequence is a special number called the golden ratio, often represented by the Greek letter phi. This ratio describes a relationship between two quantities where the proportion between the larger and the smaller is the same as the proportion between the whole and the larger part. When this proportion appears in shapes, designs, or structures, people often describe them as balanced, natural, or beautiful. Artists and architects have used this ratio for thousands of years, sometimes intentionally and sometimes instinctively, to create harmony in their work. But why do these patterns matter? Because patterns are the language the universe uses to build in nature. Efficiency is essential. Plants must grow in ways that maximize sunlight. Seeds must pack together without wasting space. Branches must spread without blocking one another. Spirals and proportional relationships are not just attractive. They are efficient solutions to complex problems. Mathematics helps us understand why these solutions work so well. When we study patterns, we are not just studying numbers, we are studying systems. A system is a group of parts that work together. A forest is a system. The human body is a system. Even your own learning process is a system. The Fibonacci sequence shows how growth builds step by step, each stage depending on what came before it. The golden ratio shows how balance comes from the relationships between parts and wholes. These are not only mathematical ideas, they are principles that appear again and again in living systems. Understanding patterns changes the way we see the world. Instead of seeing separate objects, a flower here, a shell there, we begin to notice connections. We begin to ask better questions. Why does this pattern repeat? What problem is it solving? How does this part relate to the whole? These questions strengthen observation, critical thinking, and curiosity. They teach us that knowledge is not about memorizing facts, but about recognizing relationships. There is also something deeper happening when you learn to recognize patterns. We begin to understand that growth is rarely sudden. It builds gradually in the Fibonacci sequence. Each new number depends on the two before it. Nothing appears without foundation. In the same way, learning builds on prior understanding. Skills developed through repeated practice. Habits form through consistent action. Progress is cumulative. Nature does not rush, yet it grows. When you see a spiral in a sunflower or a balanced proportion in a building, you are seeing the result of steady processes unfolding over time. The universe favors structures that are stable, efficient, and connected. Recognizing this can change how we think about challenges. Instead of expecting instant results, we can look for steady improvement. Instead of seeing mistakes as failures, we can see them as part of the sequence, steps that contribute to what comes next. This book will guide you through the mathematics behind these patterns and show you where they appear in plants, animals, art, music, architecture, and even the structure of your own body. You will learn how to construct spirals, measure proportions, and test patterns for yourself. More importantly, you will develop the ability to notice structure where others might see randomness. Once you begin to see patterns, the world becomes more understandable.